Most of us imagine a product's fate is forged on the factory floor, amid deafening noise, flying sparks, and heavy machinery. But that industrial muscle is actually blind. The machines are simply executing instructions that were finalized long before anyone flipped a power switch. The true birthplace of a product's destiny is entirely silent. It happens miles away from the assembly line, in the sterile, quiet rooms where concept design takes place. The moment a designer puts down the first sketch, that simple line dictates millions in downstream manufacturing costs. If that conceptual line shifts by a millimeter, the math multiplies exponentially, locking in massive retooling expenses before the product hits production. True manufacturing power doesn't sit with the physical building of the object. It sits with the terrifying gravity of the initial design choice that makes the building inevitable. In those early days of conceptualization, the landscape is entirely fluid. Throwing away a bad idea or changing a shape costs absolutely nothing. Compare that to the physical reality of tooling. Once you start cutting steel to make molds and dies, you are spending millions of dollars, and those physical molds cannot be uncut. This creates a massive asymmetry of commitment. You are stepping straight from an environment of infinite, costless freedom into a rigid permanence where every decision is irreversibly fixed. Inexperienced teams often ignore this asymmetry. They find the first viable path that looks good on paper and rush into the physical build just to maintain forward momentum. Moving quickly into physical production is not a measure of corporate efficiency. It is a blind gamble that permanently locks unexamined flaws into the final product. Elite design teams take the exact opposite approach. They intentionally halt their momentum and deliberately stretch out the time they spend in the concept phase. They practice a strategy called front-loading. Before a single commitment is made, they exhaustively generate countless alternate design directions. This grid shows how that comparison works. They don't look at any single idea in isolation. They rigorously test every iteration against all the others simultaneously. As the system filters the data, it evaluates the mechanical limits, structural integrity, and financial viability of every single angle. Weak conceptual paths are ruthlessly discarded until only the most resilient option survives. Lingering in this deeply analytical phase strips the emotion out of the room. It completely removes the element of guesswork from the final decision. Exhaustive conceptual exploration is the only method that can take a fragile design hypothesis and forge it into an undeniable, bulletproof reality. Which brings us back to that quiet room and the exact moment where a theoretical design must cross the threshold into the physical world. To survive crossing that threshold, a team's conceptual exploration has to be entirely comprehensive, and it has to happen without any technical friction slowing them down. This interface is Depix Design Intelligence. It provides the specific mechanism teams need to achieve that rapid, frictionless exploration across every possible product variation. Armed with this level of comprehensive foresight, the team approaches the final choice differently. What would have been a nervous guess becomes a calculated certainty. Because a decision is cheap as a sketch but brutal once it is tooled, you have to see every angle before you build. That way, when the irreversible line is finally drawn, it is drawn on purpose.